Good evening. My name is Rabbi Ben-Zion Shem-Tov. My wife and I and family direct Chabad of Sierra Vista, the only Jewish organization in Cochise County. There's a Jewish custom that at different gatherings, it should be infused with 3 pillars of a lesson, a prayer, and a charitable act. So I will begin by saying Psalm number 121 in Hebrew, followed by English. Then I will place charity into the ark, and then I will continue with the welcoming for tonight's program. Shila malis asaina yalaharim me'ayin yabe Ezri me'em adina esa shemayim ba'aretz al yitain ma'may naglacha al yonum shemracha hine layonim v'layishan shema Yisrael adina shemracha adina tzilcha al yad yeminacha yemam hashemesh layachake be'areach alayla adina yishmeracha mekodra yishmer es nafshacha Adena Yishmer Tzetzcho V'yacha Me'ata V'ad Olam. A song of ascent. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help will come from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot falter. Your guardian does not slumber. Indeed, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your protective shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going and your coming from now and for all time. Welcome to an evening of education. I want to thank each and every one of you for making tonight's presentation a priority and attending in person. Your presence here is deeply meaningful to Helga and her daughter Lisa. Seeing such a wonderful turnout makes their journey from Florida truly memorable. We are gathered tonight 80 years since Helga's liberation from the horrors of the Holocaust. Our hope is that the lessons and reflections we take away from this evening will, God willing, leave us with a deeper understanding of one another and a greater respect for every human being. I would like to direct my attention for a moment to the students in the room. Tonight's presentation is for you. You are the future. It is up to you to help ensure a world that is good, kind, and just. We know that between friends, social commitments, and after-school activities, you could be anywhere this evening. We want to thank you for choosing to spend tonight here with us. I would like to make a special shout out to the schools that made an effort to bring a group of students tonight. If I happen to miss your school, please accept my sincere apology. We have students from Liberty Traditional Saddleback and Douglas, Skills Private Academy, our homeschool community, ASU Prep Digital, Buena High School, Lowell School and Junior High School in Bisbee, St. David Middle School and High School, ALA Smith Middle School. And we have a group of volunteers from the Cochise County Student Advisory Council. If you are a student, please rise so everyone can give you a round of applause. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 18, we read the words in Hebrew, Va'ahavta l're'acha kamocha, which translates, love your fellow as yourself. To be friends with people who share your interests or those we find interesting or entertaining, you don't need a biblical commandment for that. Yet, it says that you shall love your fellow as yourself. This teaching is given with no limitations. This reminds us that there should be no distinction. We are all equal, all created in the image of God. When we truly recognize this, we begin to see the humanity in every person we encounter and by default, love them too. I believe this message is especially important in today's climate. It is for this reason that I encourage you to take the yellow ARC home with you tonight. ARC stands for Acts of Routine Kindness. Make it a daily habit to place a coin inside. When it is full, find a person or organization who you feel can benefit from this expression of love that you've created. Before I hand the mic over to the Cochise County Schools Superintendent, Dr. Jackie Clay, I would like to thank our corporate sponsors for making tonight's program a reality. Without you, this event would not be possible. For Spotlight sponsors, we have the Legacy Foundation of Southeastern Arizona. Media, we have the Herald Review. Gold sponsors, we have Aurora's Sky Realty, Copper Queen Community Hospital, SSVEC. For the silver sponsors, we have Canyon Vista Medical Center. Copper sponsors, we have Sierra Cycles, Prestige Remodeling, Guild Mortgages, Ed Morris Auto Group, Stan Greer Millworks, and last but not least, American Southwest Credit Union. I would like to call on stage Dr. Jackie Clay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this important night of remembrance. As we gather as a community to honor the 6 million Jews' lives lost in the Holocaust and to reflect on the responsibility we all share to confront hatred and protect human dignity. Tonight's event was made possible through the leadership of Chabad of Sierra Vista and under the leadership of our amazing Rabbi Shem Tov, whose commitment to education and remembrance ensures that these stories continue to be told with truth and reverence. This is our 3rd year. Thank you, Rabbi Shem Tov, for everything that you do. Please give him a hand. We are especially grateful to have students from across Cochise County. Your presence matters, ladies and gentlemen. Your presence matters. Understanding the Holocaust is very important, not only as history, but as a lesson in what happens when prejudice goes unchallenged. At this time, I know that the rabbi has done this, but I'm going to do it too. But I'm going to do it a little different. At this time, I want all the teachers to stand, please. And principals, and educational leaders. You have to realize that they took time out teaching kids all day and coming out here with them. Thank you so much for all that you do. I'm going to make you stand again. Our amazing future leaders, don't ever forget what you're listening to tonight, and don't ever let anybody tell you that nothing happened. You're going to stand strong and tell them they're lying. that you saw it, you felt it, you touched her, you heard her. And nobody will ever let you forget. Don't let anybody forget. Amazing leaders, our future. Stand, please. Students, I want everybody to take a look at them. They are our future. Thank you. You may have a seat. Student Advisory Council, those are the students from all across Cochise County who have taken up leadership positions, and their job is to give leaders, student leaders, a voice. Where are my students from the Student Advisory Council? Please stand. Thank you so much for your help. Okay, you can sit. Thank you very much. I know that this is not about students, but when you think about it, it's about the Holocaust observance, all those who went through it, and the students. So I thought it was very important for you to know who they are. Now, students, by choosing to be here, you will help carry these lessons forward. You are the generation that will shape what never, ever, ever, ever again means. Now, we are honored, deeply honored, to welcome our guest speaker, Ms. Helga Melmed, an Auschwitz survivor. Go ahead and give a hand there. All right. We're going to come out. We're going to give her a surprise in a few minutes. Whose courage and willingness to share her story is a gift for us all. Her testimony reminds us that history is lived and that remembrance is a responsibility that we must all uphold. And before we give Ms. Helga, I give her the microphone. She's told me that her birthday is the 28th of December. What's the 28th of December? She was born 28th December 1927, which makes her 98 years old. Let's give her a hand. So with that, let's sing happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Helga. Happy birthday to you. So it is my pleasure to introduce our amazing guest, the model that we need to listen to, Ms. Helga.
I usually start with Yad Vashem. Let's not forget, because my story is all about not forgetting. I was born in Berlin, Germany, on December 28, 1927. It was a snowy, cold morning. But my mother was very happy. I came to you here today to talk about all the terrible things that happened in Germany during the Nazi years. There was so much discrimination. There was so much hate. It was a terrible time to be alive. I am a Jew. It doesn't matter what you are, where you're from, what your color is, or whatever. We're all human beings. There was nothing that was always bad. There was discrimination. There was propaganda. There was evil. There was violence and hate. I learned very early in my life that discrimination is a bad thing. I was 5 years old when I started school. I was very happy to start school. I had a big bag of candy and things like all the children do in Germany when they start out of school. I had new clothes and I was happy. But I started school and I had a teacher. Her name was Blvd. And she already had joined the Nazi party. And when I got in school, she beat my pants until they became bloody with a ruler. And she made the children call me a dirty Jew. I cried. I went home to my mother and I said, Mommy, why am I dirty? I'm not dirty. I took a bath and you washed my hair and I have brand new clothes on. Why are they calling me dirty? It was very tough for my mother to explain to a 5-year-old child what it meant to be hated, to be discriminated against. I stayed in this school for 1 semester. Then my parents took me out of that public school and I went to private Jewish school. It was a very nice school. It was located in a wooded area of Germany, of Berlin. And it had a swimming pool and it had this beautiful property. Many Jewish children went there, and it was a very pleasant place. I made many friends there, and I had a very good time. But even that did not last forever. One day, it was 1938, I was 10 years old. My friend came to my house and we went to school the way we did every day. And when we got there were soldiers all over, and there were police all over. They were all dressed in those black uniforms and brown uniforms. They were smiling and laughing and giggling and throwing hate jargons at us. And in the center of the room, of the yard, was a big pit, a big black pit where they had things burning. And they went around and threw all our books, all our paintings, all our homework, all our things into this pit. And we had to watch them burn our things that were our prized possessions. We cried. All of us were hugging and crying. It was a terrible moment. How could people be so terrible to little children? This was called Christmas, because not only our school burned, every one of our temples and Chabads and different Jewish areas of prayer burned or were destroyed. The Jewish stores were broken in and destroyed under the laws of Hitler. They were robbed, they were beaten, and it was a very hateful, terrible day in Germany. I was sheltered. I went home to my parents, and they soothed me and told me we were still okay. School finished at this point for me. We went underground. Groups of children were taken and taught in cellars in different areas by kind teachers and kind adults that were willing to teach small children and older children all the different things that they possibly could teach them. This lasted for several years. There was so much propaganda and so many laws were made. Every day things came out that were verboten, prohibited. I was coming home from school and or from the basement, and I ran to my mother and I was looking for the radio, and my mother would say, "Oh, it broke," and we took it away. Someday I came home and I wondered, where our silverware? It was gone. My mother would say, it was rusty and no good anymore, so I gave it away. She never told me that all these things were taken by law away from us. Everything gradually disappeared. Everything of value was made into law. Jewish people were not allowed to work in certain professions or do certain things. My father was laid off way back in '34 from the bank that he was working in. Times became hard and things became worse. We weren't allowed to go any place. Our rations were much less than those of the German citizens. We could not go to the movies anymore. We could not go to the zoo anymore. We could not go to the parks anymore. Everything was prohibited for Jews. So we wound up staying at school long after hours. We played together and we had fun together, but we weren't allowed to go anyplace. The years went by and life became harder and harder. Then one day, it was in 1941, it was October of 1941, I went to bed as usual, and I was awoke in the middle of the night when there was a loud banging against our door. My father went to open the door, and there were the German soldiers. And they said, "Hurry up, mach schnell, hurry up, you have 20 minutes, and then we're going to take you to a better place." I looked at them, and I looked at my mother, and I said, "To a better place? What could be better than the place where I was born, where I lived all my life up till then?" I was 12 years old, and I couldn't believe there would be a better place. We were put into trucks and taken to a warehouse. I never knew that warehouse before. It was in Berlin, and many Jewish people were gathered in that warehouse. It was an old slaughtering house. There were hooks on the walls where they hung people, and they were hanging there and screaming like pieces of meat. They were hurting, they were bleeding. My parents took me in between them and cuddled me. They tried to let me see the horror, but I could see, I could smell, I could hear, and I could see the blood flowing on the ground. It was a terrible place. It was a sad place. We stayed there. I don't know for how long, but it wasn't terribly long. It was just a little while, perhaps 2 or 3 days. Then came the cars. We had big trains, big long trains of cattle cars. They shoved us, all the Jewish people from Berlin, thousands of them, into these cattle cars. There were hundreds in one car, and it was crowded. We were like sardines. We couldn't even sit down. There were men, there were women, there were children, there were old people, young people, every kind of people, all Jewish. They were hated people. They were not people. They were unpeople, dispensable people. They took us in these cars and we drove and drove. There was no food, no water. Every so often the train stopped. They would bring us some water, but we had no containers, so we had to carry it in our hands. And I being small, my hands were very small, and they were very leaky still. So all the water I got, all the water that even my father would put in my hands, would leak out from the bottom, and I hardly ever got more than a drop of water. And we drove and drove for many days. I don't really know how many days. But finally we arrived at what was called the ghetto of Lodz. Litzmannstadt, the Germans called it. But it was a Polish city in Poland called Lodz. It was not the good area of Lodz. We went to the slum area. We were fenced in by wires that were electrified. We were allowed to walk around and do things. But it wasn't a pleasant city. It was a torturous city. It wasn't a free city. But we did work, and we stayed together for a little while. We found a place to live, but we were not welcome there because the Polish people had a different language. They had a different culture, and they were starving already. So dumping thousands of German Jews into that city, into that ghetto, was not a pleasant thing for them. But after a while, we learned to manage to get together and tolerate each other the best we could. One day, my father was called to work. Like every morning, the men were called to work and gathered in the marketplace, or what used to be once a marketplace. And they were gathered there, and then they took the German soldiers, took them out into the city, and they had to perform hard labor. They had to dig ditches. They had to do all kinds of hard work. And even though my father hated it and was not used to it, he was telling us there was always a good side to everything bad, because he gathered some coffee grounds and some potato peels from the garbage of the German people, and he would bring them back to us. My mother used to make patties out of them. She used the coffee grounds and ground up the potato peels, put 1 tablespoon of flour in it, and made little patties, and fried them in mineral oil, and that would be our supper. It filled us up. It didn't taste that great, but it filled us up, and we were happy to have food. I always told my mother I would really like an onion for it, but onions were not to be had together. Even the black market was tight. One day, my father gathered in the marketplace with many other men, and they were used as target practice for the German soldiers. My father was shot. I never saw my father again. My mother was heartbroken. We were both heartbroken, and we couldn't believe that our dad was gone. Where did he go, Mama? I would say. Where did he go? Only God knows where he went. He went. He just went. After my dad died, my mother got sick. My mother and I were working in a factory. My mother was sewing uniforms for German soldiers, and I was working, putting buttons on those uniforms. It was hard work for a 13-year-old girl to put buttons on those heavy uniforms. My fingers were too delicate, and the needle jerked my fingers. It pricked me all the time. My hands got very sore. The soldiers walked around with guns and told us, make schnell, make it fast, make it faster. You're not sewing on enough buttons. And such was our work. My mother got sicker and sicker. She got weaker and weaker. And finally, she couldn't go to work anymore. Her heart was broken, besides being physically sick and starving already. She finally stayed at home, laying in the bed on the cot with a straw sack and a tough army blanket, because that's all we had. Gone were all the fineries that we once had before, of nice blankets and soft linens. My mother got very sick, and I tried to take care of her the best I could. I would run home from work and try and give her some food. The little patties that we used to have were gone already since my father passed away. And all I had was the rations that were not very much. Yet every time I made something, my mother would say, I don't feel like eating. You read it, my child. You read it, little girl. And I did not think about it. I would just eat it because I was hungry and because I was a kid. So I ate some of my mother's food. Only later, much later, and even now, I think about the things she did. She gave her life for me because she wanted me to live. She didn't think of herself. She just wanted her daughter to live. I still feel guilty about it. On my birthday, I went to work. I turned 14 years old. I came home, and my mother was sitting in a chair, and she was smiling. She had a blanket around her, and she was smiling, and she said, "It's your birthday, child. I have a present for you." And she gave it to me, and she said, "Here, this is my present to you." It was the best present I ever had in all my life. It was a whole onion. It was too late to make a patty, but I still loved the onion, and I still ate the onion. My mother went to bed after she gave me my present and kissed me and went to bed. She said she was very tired and she wanted to go back to bed. I did some cleaning up and went to bed myself. The next morning I woke up and my mother was gone. My mother had died during the night of my birthday. I still cry about it. I still remember the deep hurt that I felt. I could not believe my mama was gone. I was just a child, and she left me. She left me because she could not live any longer. I went back to work. Work was in the factories, but the factories were observed by a man called the eldest of the Jews. He was like the mayor of the ghetto, but he really had no power. He worked under the Nazi regime and had to do whatever they told him to do. But he still had some freedoms that he could exert on the ghetto. He came around to the factories, to all the different factories, and he was allowed to choose some children to foster or adopt or whatever they called it those days. So he took 8 children in, 4 girls and 4 boys, and he put us into a dilapidated house, which was much better than where I lived. And he had us have a housekeeper, a woman who took care of us. We still went to work every day, but we went to different work. The girls were allowed to do sewing on the machines by now, and we manufactured ladies' underwear, and it was not quite as hard work as it was before, even though they still were over us with their guns and with their shouting but we still worked. The boys still work in other places. We were happy. We had our little family, and we were young. We were all 15, 16 years old. Some of us a little younger, some of us a little older. But we became brothers and sisters, and we really began to love each other. The four girls clung together up through. We became very, very close. I called them my king sisters. We lived there for a while until the Russians came close to the borders of Poland and to the borders of the ghetto, and the Germans decided that the ghetto had to be emptied. It was the job of the elders of the Jews to take so many people each day and put them on cattle cars. When the cattle cars were filled, they were taken off. We knew they were going to Auschwitz. We knew there was a very active grapevine in the ghetto, and we knew what was going on. So many people got sent to Auschwitz. We stayed there for a while longer. He tried to keep us back for a long time. But then we had to go through. The whole house was empty. We were put on cattle cars again, and we drove and drove again for many days. And then we got to Auschwitz. Auschwitz had a big entrance that looked very fancy, and it said, "Arbeit macht frei." Work makes you free. What kind of work? Slave labor? Not slave labor. Nice work makes you free. Good work, learning and doing good things makes you free. Not slave labor. We were put into a stable-like situation. We were separated from our boys. They were taken to a different side. We were taken to that side. Our boys, our 15, 16-year-old boys, were never seen again. We did not know what happened to them. When we guessed, we knew they didn't survive. They were young. They were 15, 16. They were still kind of strong. But they went. They were afraid of them. They were afraid of them to go. The girls, my three close friends that were my camp sisters, stayed together. We hung together, we hugged each other, and we stayed together every step of the way. We always shared everything, and we always did everything for each other that we could. We were in Auschwitz, sleeping in this barracks, 5 people in a row with their legs open and leaning back. That's the way we got to sleep. But we didn't sleep for long. Every couple hours they came around, they called it mustering, and they took us out onto the cold areas outside, and they made us, they called our numbers. We didn't have numbers engraved in our arms, but we had numbers in our shirts book. And they called the numbers, and those that were called went. We know exactly where they went. They went to the gas chamber because we could see the smoke from where we were staying, white, and then it turned black, white, and it turned black, and the smell of burning flesh, one can never forget, because you cannot forget the burning smell of flesh. And there we were, being mastered every day, being full of fear, so much fear that we couldn't imagine it, but we hung together, we stayed together. One day we were called, we went hanging together, holding hands, and we came to a place out of the open, and they took us and shaved every bit of our hair off. We looked at each other, and we couldn't even recognize each other. There we were, little girls with beautiful hair. All of a sudden, we were bald, and it was very, very traumatic. From that place, we were taken to another area where they made us undress. They undressed us in front of the young German soldiers who were giggling and laughing and throwing puns at us. And we had to get naked. We were not used to that kind of treatment. We were crying, and we were slow at getting undressed, and they were screaming at us. And if we weren't taking our clothes off fast enough, they started ripping them off. It was very, very bad, and we were embarrassed, and they were having fun. How could they treat us like that? But they did. They did. After that, they told us to go into the showers. We thought they were the gas showers. We had each other's hands. We sang and we prayed and we walked slowly into the gas chamber. But as it turned out, they were not gas, they were water. We got washed very rapidly. We got washed under the cold water. They threw some rags at us, and we dried off a little bit, and then they threw some clothes at us from the people that they had killed previously. They weren't fitting very well. They weren't really made for us, but they were covering our bodies. We didn't get any shoes, but we got a lot of wrappings for our body. From there, they took us back into cattle car. We huddled into the cattle car, and we were driven again, not ever knowing where we would wind up next. We drove and drove. We were still holding on to each other. We got to a warehouse in Hamburg, got our into this warehouse. It was very old. It had big holes in the ground. We were up on the second floor, like saying, and we looked through the holes that were yay big. They were not too tiny, but they were not too big. Nobody ever could fit through them. We could see the water underneath us. And we used to dream. We used to look down there and think of the freedom we could have. We wanted to jump into the water and swim far, far away from Germany. But we never could. We never could fit through the holes. We never were allowed to even get close to the holes. We stayed in that section for a while until we were taken out again, and we were taken to trucks. We were driven to Neuengamme. Neuengamme was a camp just like Auschwitz. It just had a different name. But it was a Cavalry camp, and it was a death camp. They had a place that they called the 100th Day Battalion. The 100th Day Battalion where they made mostly the men work for very hard work. And they worked so hard and they got so little food that nobody lived longer than 100 days. That's what was called the 100th Day Battalion. We were gathered there, and many of the younger women between the ages of 16 and 20 some were taken to Pappenbüttel. Pappenbüttel was the labor camp. It was now 1945, early 1945, and maybe 1944, because in 1945 we got out of there. In the beginning of 44, we went to Pappenbüttel, where we worked, and Pappenbüttel, Hamburg, was close to Hamburg, Germany. Hamburg was bombed very heavily by the British, and every day there were bombing raids. We used to sit and watch the bombs fall down. We used to sit and pray that they would hit us, but they never did. We had to work in Pappenbüttel. We were taken every morning, and we got a slice of bread and a beaker of what they call coffee, which was dark brown water, but it was hot, and hot was good in the cold days. We took our bread and we cut it in 4 pieces. We ate a quarter of the bread and we had our coffee. Then we were taken to work to gather big bricks of broken down houses, big cement slabs, huge, that we had to pick up and put in these containers that they called Lauren. Once one of those Lauren was filled, 2 girls would take the Lauren and shove it up a hill and dump it over and then bring it back, put it up again, bring it back again, and do the same thing over and over again, all day long, from early morning till late dusk. It was very hard labor. At lunchtime, we got a glass of a container of water, and we would had a quarter piece of bread with the water, which kept us in a little bit of strength to keep on working in the afternoon. In the late evening, that time, they took us back to camp, where we got what they called dinner. It was soup. It was a watery soup with some potato peels and a few slices of turnip. We again ate our third piece of bread, and that was dinner. In the evening, before we went to bed, we would go to the pumps and get some water and eat our last piece of bread. That was so we wouldn't be completely empty when we went to sleep. That's all. Good night. That was the way we lived. And but we were still the four of us together. We loved each other, we helped each other, we shared our bread every afternoon, and we did things together. In the evenings we told stories, we sang songs, and we helped each other by telling the stories that were good from previous times. Time went on there. The British came closer and closer. The war came closer and closer to an end. And we needed to leave Hamburg. The Germans took us out of Chabad. They put us into trucks, drove us a short distance past the suburbs of Hamburg, and then made us walk 90 miles or more from there to Bergen-Belsen. Bergen-Belsen was the plain old death camp. Everybody there was no choice. Either you lived and survived till the end of the war, or you died. We were all very sick. On the march, people died. Many people died. You couldn't escape because they would shoot you. If you fell down or tripped, they would shoot you. There was just no way of really getting going, and we didn't know where we were going. The four of us held each other up, and we walked, and we walked. We walked for a very long distance, for a very long time. As I found out later, over 90 miles. We came to Bergen-Belsen, and I was separated from my camp sisters. We were all separated. They went other places, and I never found them back until many, many years after. I was taken to a place where I thought I was going to die. Everybody was sick. I weighed 46 pounds and was 18 years old. 46 pounds, like a little child. I was nothing but bones and skin. And I was sick with typhus fever and consumption, a lung disease, TB-like. One day I heard a lot of jubilation and a lot of screams, but I was too sick to even notice too much. Then they came and they put me on the board and carried me out. I thought it was to a mass grave, because most of the people that couldn't move or couldn't scream, they just took them and put them in mass graves. But I was taken on board, and I was taken not by the Germans, but by British soldiers to a hospital tent. I stayed in the hospital tent, and I was treated by British nurses and doctors. It was the end. It was Bergen-Belsen was free. It was shortly before the end of the war. And Bergen-Belsen was overrun by the British. I stayed in the hospital tent for many days, many weeks. And I got nursed, and I was smiled at and helped and made to feel better. I went one day in the middle of June. Many of the younger people were taken by a Count Volker. He took people to Sweden to cure them. And I was fortunate enough to be taken to a hospital ship and transferred to a Swedish hospital. I weighed 46 pounds. Our main activity at the hospital was to measure around our legs, which were like this big. And like a couple of weeks later, they were like this big. And we would measure again, and they grew this big until our legs became fat, like this. And it was a very happy time there. I stayed in the hospital for over a year until I got better. I was lucky because the typhoid had gone away, and before I got to Sweden. And in Sweden, the fortunate thing was streptomycin was discovered. Streptomycin is the earliest of the antibiotics that could cure tuberculosis. And I got cured by getting streptomycin. I stayed with a family there. The war was over now, and diplomats came to the hospital from all the different nations to visit the people that were at the hospital. They came from Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Romania, and all over the place, Poland, and they visited with their patients. Nobody came to see me. I was German, or considered that. But after a while, the business world was talking, and like things go around and come around, a gentleman found out about me being in the hospital and that I was from Germany, and he came to visit me. He brought me things, he brought me food, he brought me chocolates, he brought me cookies, he brought me a coat, and he was very, very nice to me, and we really liked each other. So after I became well enough, he took me to his home, and I liked his children, and I liked his wife. So he decided he would take me in. I stayed with that family for almost 3 years. I went to school in Sweden a little bit, and I worked for him doing errands and things for his business. And I was very happy in Sweden. But my aunt, who lived in America, wanted me to come to America. So I came to America. I was 19 years old. I had $90 in my wallet and a small suitcase. And I went on a Greek farm, a Swedish ship, to New York. It was a December, early December morning. The sea was very rough, and we traveled for 11 days. It was a long time, and everybody got seasick because the sea was so rough. I came to New York, and we saw the Statue of Liberty, and we felt the freedom and the joy of coming to New York. My cousin, who lived in New York, I had not seen him since I was about 3 years old. So he sent me a telegram, and he said, I have a pipe in my mouth and a white ammunition in my lapel, and that way he will recognize me. And I did. He took me to my aunt's house. I stayed with my aunt and lived there, and I went to high school. High school was a tough thing for me. I was a little bit older, and I worked a little bit harder because I didn't know the language. We had blackboards then, and everything was written on the blackboard, and the homework was marked in a special area, also on the blackboard. I would copy all of it onto my notebook. I would take it home to my aunt's house. I would spend all night sitting with a small lamp, translating from English into German, because nobody was helping me. My teacher, Mr. Brown, gave me a big red Thornback dictionary. He handed it to me, and he said, you learn English that way. And I took it home, and I translated. I spent many a night translating everything that was on the blackboard or in the books that we had assigned into German. Then I would do my homework that I translated, and then I would do my homework in German, and I would translate it back into English. And in the morning, I would proudly do my homework in English to the teachers. And I was very happy that I had done it. Sleep, I didn't get very much. Maybe a couple hours before I head off to school on the subway and ran to school. After school, I went to work. I worked at Beth Israel Hospital in the children's department, and the little children would teach me English. They can teach better than any teacher could teach. And I learned a lot from the little kids. And that's how I finally learned the language. I graduated from high school by cheating. I took the Regents skateboards, and I German as a foreign language. Got 4 credits for German, and that put me over the border. I graduated from high school in a year and a half. After high school, I tried to get into nursing, but Bellevue Hospital, all the hospitals around in New York would not accept me because I wasn't a citizen. So I searched around and I finally found Jewish hospital in Philadelphia would accept me without citizenship as long as I promised I would become a citizen before I graduated and took the state boards. So I enlisted in Philadelphia, at that time Jewish hospital, which turned into Albert Einstein Medical Center. I graduated from Albert Einstein Medical Center, and I became a citizen before I took state boards for nursing. I had a roommate in nursing school who told me all the dirty words. That was very important. And I stayed there, and I became a resident nurse after I took the state board. And while I was there in school, my roommate took me home to her house because New York was too far to go for the short amount of time we had. So I went to her house and I met her brother. Her brother had a girlfriend, but my roommate used to say always, "You're going to marry him, you're going to marry him." And I would say, "Yeah, he has a girlfriend." But I guess girlfriends come and go. So after a while, we became a couple. And after I graduated, and he graduated from Temple University, we married. We married, and we had a good marriage for 65 years. We have 4 children, all college graduates, that I'm very proud of. And I have 4 grandchildren that I'm also very proud of. And that's my life. But listen to it, because I want to tell you that hope and love are more expensive than anything else. If you give a smile, you get a smile. Respect each other. Respect everybody, because we're all human beings. And I hope that you will remember some of those things. You can overcome everything that's bad if you hope, if you learn the truth and follow your own ways. And that's my advice. Listen and learn. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Okay, before we begin with the questions, we're going to have one of the student volunteers come and run that portion of tonight's evening. And I want to just end off with a short melody that was sung throughout the time of the Holocaust that gave literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people the faith, the courage, of the hope that will end and there will be a redemption. So I'm going to sing the song in Hebrew, just a short melody. Ani mamim, ani mamim, ani mamim. B'emunah shelema, b'vias HaMashiach, b'vias HaMashiach ani mamim. Which means that I believe with full faith in the coming of the Mashiach. All right, we will turn the mic over for questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to...
Some of the questions.
Did you ever find the campmates? The campmates, if you said you found them many years later.
What? I found my camp sisters when I moved to America, one by one. My one camp sister came to America and lived in Bronx, New York. She married the principal of a high school, and I saw her frequently while I lived in New Jersey. My other camp sister moved to upstate New York and lived there and married up there and had a family. I visited with her frequently when my children went to summer camp because I became a camp nurse. And when I got a couple of days off during the summer, I would visit with her. So I used to see her sort of annually. The third camp sister stayed in Sweden, married in Sweden, and had a family in Sweden. And I had the great pleasure last year when I went to Hamburg, Germany, on an invitation. She had found me through a cousin by choosing the last name. Her mother left her. Her mother never talked much about camp, but she did mention my name and my last name, and she wrote some notes, and she followed the notes and found me. And this last year, I had the pleasure of meeting her in Hamburg, where she came to Hamburg to meet with me. And it was so great to see her, see the daughter of my camp sister. She looks a lot like her being is like her. And it was such a great joy. And her stories, that once she heard, are exactly like mine, which makes it very interesting.
Excuse me, have you ever forgiven any of the Nazi soldiers who did those terrible things to you?
There are very few Nazi soldiers left. I have not been able to hear any talk. I know they saw the horrors of the camp. I do forgive them. I will never forget, but I will forgive. And they saw horrors too. I feel very badly for them. They worked on orders too, so they had to do things that they weren't very pleased with.
If anyone has any other questions.
Did you ever use ink around the Holocaust?
Not completely, no.
You mentioned that you were not tattooed or given a number. Was that something that they didn't do to women, or was it just certain people they chose not to give them to?
It was because the war was very hard on already, and they wanted us to work. It was a rush job. They had to send us quickly to get our hair shaped and undress us and send us back to work camp. I did have a number. It was written, just written, you know.
What was your number?
So, yeah. A, 27, 407.
You got that from?
From a record in Oregon. When we visited Oregon.
Good evening. You mentioned that many of the people, the Nazi soldiers and others worked on orders. What do you feel that individuals who did not agree with Hitler's cause could have done to prevent the horrible treatment of your people? Or what do you wish they had done to stop this or end it sooner?
Looked into the propaganda, studied it, made sure that it wasn't just like found origin of where it came from, and wrote and demonstrated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing. My question is, you went through so many horrific things, and yet you went on to have a family and achieve an education and career. And my question is, how did you find the courage and strength for healing to move forward?
To heal where? By helping others. That's why I became a nurse. I studied and I became a nurse. And I wanted to help the world to become better people.
so much for coming. So you mentioned an aunt. Was there any other relatives from both sides of your mom and dad? Any others that, were out there?
How many people? In my family,
Well, your mom and dad.
0.
0.
Oh, Sunday. My aunt in America was alive. She was a half aunt. And my other aunt was alive. And she came to America. And my cousin was sent on kinder transport to England when she was 3 years older than me. And she stayed in England in an orphanage. Then she went into the British Army and went into Germany to look for her family as a medic in a Red Cross car.
So your dad didn't have any brothers or sisters? Was that aunt on the side of your dad?
On my father's side, there was one brother that went from Germany to Shanghai with a wife and 2 children. He got persecuted in Shanghai when Japan joined the war and went from Shanghai. They escaped to Australia. I have some family in Australia left, but I have not been in contact with them in many, many years.
We are going to take 3 more questions and then we'll conclude tonight's evening. You could feel free afterwards to come up, take a photo with Helga, ask a question. But the official, formal part of tonight's evening will end after the next 3 questions.
Thank you for coming. What do you think we can do today to avoid the same atrocities that caused the Holocaust? What do you think we can do to prevent that today?
Study. Look into the truth of things. There's a lot of propaganda around these days. Read the newspapers. Don't listen to all the garbage on the public media. There's a lot of talk going around that's not true. Examine it. Find out where the truth lies and act on the truth.
Thanks.
Shalom. Good evening. It's lovely to see you. If you don't mind my saying so, you still have a beautiful face.
Thank you.
Yes. Have you ever traveled to Israel? Have you ever lived in Israel?
I've not lived in Israel, but I have traveled to Israel.
What did you think?
It's a beautiful country. I had a family meeting there with 120 people of my husband's family, and it was a marvelous thing to meet everybody and to see. It was in the 80s, it was 1985, and it's a shame to see so many soldiers there and so much unrest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I just have one question. Propaganda works well when it uses division and people's, like you say,
What?
It works really well when it comes to division, right? Based off of race, religion, anything. And it is based largely on a person's individual bias, right? Through your life, did you see any way to get through that personal bias that another person might have that can help prevent their belief in propaganda on a one-to-one nature?
What? You try to educate them. You try to talk to them. You try to show them the truth, where you found the truth, where you examine things, how you examine things.
Thank you.
Before everyone gets up from their seats, I want to thank you again for coming out this evening. And I'd like to call up Dr. Jackie Clay to give a little presentation.
Let's give Ms. Helga another hand, please. First of all, on behalf of the Student Advisory Council of Cochise County, they'd like to bring something to you right quick. And Mr. Zachary, he is the lead for the students.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm sure you do. Okay, thank you. Thank you. On behalf of Cochise County, all the students, the community, educators, we have this small token of appreciation for you.
Thank you so much. It's really good.
And what we're going to do, Ms. Helga, is we're going to take all the pictures and send you a very large plaque to your address in remembrance of this day.
Thank you. That's what we wear.
You're welcome. Last but not least, Rabbi Shemkov, in recognition of your distinguished service to educators and students of Cochise County, through your leadership and unwavering commitment to meaningful scholarship, you have provided Holocaust presentations to more than 100 students across our county, granting them the rare and valuable opportunity to learn directly from in-person Holocaust survivors whose testimonies bear witness to truth, dignity, and moral clarity. Your efforts have enriched our education community
deepen historical understanding, and ensure that future generations encounter this history with reverence, accuracy, and humanity. Your dedication reflects the highest ideals of educational partnership and civic responsibility. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, Rabbi, for your leadership and dedication. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Helga. We love you.
This promise to take pictures.
Yes, we're going to get all the pictures.
All right, thank you everyone for coming. This concludes the program. If anybody would like to come up, take a photo, feel free to do so.